Hey everyone, welcome back to our podcast episode. We're so glad to have you with us again. If you caught our last episode, we dived deep into the top 10 travel mistakes that travelers often make and how to avoid them. If you missed it, don't worry, you can catch up anytime.
That's right, Adam. And today we're taking things a step further. After talking about the common mistakes we all make on our travels, it's time to focus on something even more important: how to stay calm and handle emergencies when things go wrong abroad.
Because let's face it, emergencies can happen when you least expect them. Whether it's losing your passport, needing medical help, or dealing with a theft, knowing the right English phrases can make all the difference in an intense situation.
Absolutely. And in this episode, we're giving you the essential emergency English phrases and tips that will help you navigate those tough situations with confidence. From asking for help at the hospital to communicating with local authorities, we've got you covered.
So whether you're planning your first international trip or you're a seasoned traveler, stick with us, because this episode is going to make sure you're prepared for anything without the stress.
Let's get started. Get ready to feel more confident on your next adventure. We promise you, this episode could save you more than just a few headaches abroad.
All right, let's dive right into the heart of today's episode, emergency phrases. We all know that travel is filled with surprises, and not all of them are good ones. You could be having the best time exploring a new city, and suddenly, boom, you're facing a situation you didn't expect. Whether it's losing your wallet, feeling ill, or finding yourself in a dangerous situation, the reality is that emergencies can happen anytime, anywhere. But here's the good news. Knowing the right English phrases can really make all the difference when it comes to getting help fast. You won't have to scramble for words or rely on awkward gestures. Today, we're going to cover the must-know phrases for handling emergencies abroad, from medical issues to lost items to communicating with the police. Because when you're in an emergency, you don't want to be guessing what to say. You want to be prepared.
That's absolutely right, Adam. And the first thing we have to acknowledge is that emergencies are stressful. No one wants to be in a situation where you're injured or something important goes missing. But these things do happen. And when they do, knowing how to communicate effectively is everything. Whether you're in a bustling city or a remote area, you don't want to get caught in a language barrier when you're trying to get urgent help. Think about it. If you can't explain your situation, how can anyone help you? That's why today, we're going to give you the phrases that you need to remember and say confidently when things go wrong. And the best part is, you don't need to be fluent in English. You just need to know a few key phrases that will make a huge impact.
Exactly. So, let's start with the most common kind of emergency you might face when you're traveling. Medical issues. Imagine you're on a trip, and all of a sudden, you start feeling really sick, or you injure yourself somehow. Either way, you need help immediately. In these kinds of situations, it's essential to know how to ask for medical assistance. But it's also about being able to describe your symptoms so that you can get the proper care. Now, let me walk you through some phrases you'll want to have in your back pocket. First up, if you're feeling ill or something feels off, you'll need to know how to express it. Simple phrases like these could save you a lot of trouble. I don't feel well. I feel sick. I have a headache. I have a stomach ache.
Right, Adam. And what's great about these phrases is that they're direct, simple, and easy to understand. Whether you're at a hotel, on the street, or in a cafe, these are the words you need to be clear about what's happening to you. But sometimes, the symptoms aren't obvious, and you need medical help immediately. Maybe you're feeling weak, or something else is seriously wrong. In that case, these phrases can really help you get the attention of someone nearby, or even a doctor, if you're lucky enough to find one quickly. I need a doctor. Where is the nearest hospital? Can you call an ambulance? I need medical assistance immediately.
Exactly. Now let's go a step further. Imagine you're in a new city or country, and you've just had an accident. Maybe you tripped, fell, or something more serious happened. The last thing you want to do is waste time trying to figure out how to ask for directions to the nearest hospital. That's why you need to be able to say things like, "How do I get to the hospital? Is there a pharmacy nearby? Can you take me to the nearest clinic?"
And Adam, that's something I really want to emphasize. When you're in a stressful situation, your brain isn't always working at full capacity. The more direct you can be in these kinds of situations, the better. So, if you're really struggling to breathe or your symptoms are serious, it's okay to sound urgent. You can say things like, "Please help me. I need help. I'm in trouble. Can you help me, please?"
Yeah, those are key. The more urgent you sound, the more likely it is that someone will stop and listen to you. Now let's talk about another situation that often causes stress while traveling: lost items. Whether it's your wallet, your phone, or even your passport, losing something important while you're abroad can send your heart racing. But being able to explain what's missing and asking for help immediately can make all the difference. Let's say you're out and about, and suddenly you realize your wallet is gone. Here's how you might express it. "I've lost my passport. I lost my wallet. I can't find my phone. My bag is missing."
That's a huge one, Adam. And the moment you realize something is missing, the clock is ticking. You need to report it as soon as possible, especially if it's something like your passport or credit cards. Now, here's where the magic happens. If you're in a busy place like a market or even on public transport, people might not know you're in trouble unless you speak up. These phrases will help you get noticed right away and hopefully find your missing items. "Can you help me find my wallet? Have you seen a black backpack around here? I've lost my bag. Could you help me?"
And of course, if you're not having any luck, you're going to need to talk to the authorities. Whether it's the police or a lost property desk at a station, you'll need to communicate clearly that you've experienced a theft. Phrases like these will help you make sure you're taken seriously. "I need to report a theft. My bag was stolen. Can you help me file a report? Where is the nearest police station?"
Exactly. And let's say you've gone through all the steps to report a lost item, but now you need to cancel your bank cards or contact your embassy. It's good to be ready with phrases that can help you make those calls too. You don't want to get caught off guard and not know how to proceed. For instance, "I need to cancel my credit card. How do I report a stolen card? Is there a 24-hour bank number I can call?"
These phrases may seem simple, but trust me, in the heat of the moment, having these ready will help you get things back on track much quicker. And here's the thing: you don't have to be perfect in your delivery. The point is to get your message across clearly and calmly. Remember, when you sound confident, even if you're nervous, people will respond more positively.
Exactly. And with that said, let's quickly recap what we've covered in this chapter. First, we talked about essential medical phrases, so you know exactly what to say when you need help with your health. Then, we looked at what to do if you lose something valuable: your passport, wallet, or phone, and the right words to use to report it and get help. Whether you're facing a medical emergency, dealing with theft, or just needing assistance, these phrases can make a huge difference.
That's right. The more you practice these phrases, the more prepared you'll feel. So, we challenge you. Next time you're traveling, try to learn a few of these phrases. The more you say them out loud, the more comfortable you'll be when the time comes to use them. Trust me, your future self will thank you.
And don't worry. If you're listening and thinking, "I'm not sure I can remember all of this," we'll make sure to share a list of all these essential phrases so you can go back and study them. Just keep practicing, and before you know it, you'll have them ready at a moment's notice.
All right, now we are diving deep into something that every traveler needs to be prepared for: medical emergencies. I know it's not the most fun thing to think about, but here's the reality. Whether you're traveling for business, adventure, or leisure, there's always a chance that you might get sick or hurt while you're abroad. It's something we all hope doesn't happen, but we have to be prepared for it. And trust me, how you handle it can make a huge difference in how quickly you get the help you need.
That's right, Adam. Nobody plans for a medical emergency when they're on vacation or on a business trip. But it's important to be ready just in case. Whether it's something as simple as food poisoning or something more serious like a broken bone, having the right knowledge and knowing what to say in English could be the key to getting the treatment you need. In this chapter, we're going to guide you through what to do if you get sick or injured while you're abroad. And of course, we'll arm you with all the essential English phrases you'll need to communicate with healthcare professionals and get help fast.
Exactly. Now, let's first talk about the most common scenario, feeling sick. Whether it's from jet lag, the change in climate, or maybe just the food, getting sick while you're traveling can throw a wrench into your plans. But the sooner you recognize what's happening and get the right help, the sooner you can get back to enjoying your trip. So, what's the first thing you should do if you're feeling unwell abroad?
Well, the first thing to remember is that you're not alone. You're likely in a new environment, but there are always options for medical care. Whether it's your hotel's front desk, a local pharmacy, or a hospital, most cities have the infrastructure to help you out. But let's break it down. First, when you start feeling sick, you need to communicate the symptoms clearly. So, what do you say? Here are a few phrases that are simple and straightforward, but also crucial when you're trying to describe how you feel. I don't feel well. I feel sick. I have a headache. My stomach hurts. I feel nauseous. I have a fever. I'm dizzy.
Those are great, Sophia. Simple, but effective. Now, imagine you're in a hotel and you don't feel well. What's your next move? Maybe you want to call a doctor or find a pharmacy. Here are some key phrases you'll need to take the next step and find the help you need. Can you call a doctor for me? Where is the nearest pharmacy? I need a doctor. Is there a clinic around here? Can you recommend a hospital?
Exactly. Getting the right medical assistance starts with asking the right questions. Now, there are some cases where your symptoms might be severe and you need immediate attention. For example, if you're experiencing chest pain, difficulty breathing, or you're in a lot of pain, it's time to escalate the situation. You need to make sure you're being taken seriously and get the help you need as soon as possible. For that, you can use these phrases. I need medical help right away. This is an emergency. Please send an ambulance. I'm in pain. I need help now.
And here's something that can make a huge difference: being specific. If you're experiencing specific pain, it's crucial to be able to point out where it hurts. It can be the difference between getting the right care quickly or wasting time trying to explain your symptoms. These are phrases you'll want to remember if you're in pain and need to explain what's going on. I have pain in my chest. It hurts when I breathe. I feel sharp pain in my side. I have a headache. My leg hurts.
And just a tip. If you're unsure about what's going on with you, don't hesitate to ask for help. You might feel embarrassed or nervous, but remember, the doctors and healthcare professionals are there to help. They've seen it all, so don't hesitate to use phrases like these to get clarity on what you're dealing with. What's wrong with me? Do I need to see a doctor? Is this serious? Should I go to the hospital?
Those questions are really important because the sooner you can get a clear diagnosis, the quicker you can get the treatment you need. Now let's say you get to the hospital or clinic and you're finally talking to a doctor. You might need to know how to describe your medical history or what you've already tried for your symptoms. This is where your preparation can really pay off.
Absolutely. One of the most common things you'll be asked by doctors is whether you've had any previous medical conditions, if you're on any medication, or if you have any allergies. Knowing how to explain that in English can really speed things up. So, here are some key phrases you might use. I'm allergic to medication food. I have a history of condition. I'm on medication for condition. I'm diabetic. I have high blood pressure.
And here's something to keep in mind when you're at the doctor's office or hospital. Don't be afraid to ask about the treatment. It's important that you understand what's going on, especially if it's something you need to follow up on later. You might want to ask things like, what's the diagnosis? What do I need to do next? How long will I need to take this medication? Do I need to stay in the hospital?
Those are great questions to ensure you fully understand your treatment plan. But sometimes, medical emergencies are more serious than we expect. You could end up in a situation where you're admitted to a hospital, or you might need to arrange for follow-up care once you're back home. Knowing how to ask for the necessary paperwork or documents is key in these situations, so be sure to remember these phrases. Can I get a copy of the report? Do I need a referral? Can you send my medical records to my doctor at home?
Exactly. And that brings us to another point, medical insurance. Before you travel, always make sure you know how your travel insurance works. And if you need to contact them for medical expenses, knowing how to ask about payment or insurance coverage is essential. You might need to say things like, how do I pay for the treatment? Do you accept my insurance? Can I pay by credit card? Do you need my insurance details?
That's an important point, Adam. Insurance can make a huge difference when you're abroad, especially if the treatment is expensive. So, before your trip, make sure you're fully aware of what's covered and how to handle any medical costs if something happens.
Absolutely. So, to wrap things up for this chapter, let's quickly review what we've learned. Medical emergencies are stressful enough, but knowing the right phrases can help you get the help you need quickly and clearly. Whether it's describing your symptoms, asking for urgent care, or handling insurance details, you'll be ready for anything. And remember, staying calm and knowing the right questions to ask can make the whole process a lot easier.
Exactly, Adam. And while we don't want to scare anyone, it's always best to be prepared. If you're traveling abroad, take a few moments to review these phrases, practice them, and when you're on your trip, keep them handy, just in case. You'll feel more confident knowing you've got the tools to handle any medical emergency that comes your way.
All right. Now, let's shift gears and talk about something that ideally no one ever wants to experience while traveling, interacting with the police. I know, Sophia, when we think about police and authorities, it's not always the most pleasant of topics. But the reality is, there could be situations, whether it's a theft, an accident, or something more serious, where you'll need to talk to local law enforcement. And when that happens, you need to be prepared to handle it as calmly and efficiently as possible.
That's absolutely true, Adam. Interacting with the police in a foreign country can be intimidating, especially if there's a language barrier. The key is to stay calm. And, like we always say, being prepared with the right phrases can make the process a lot easier. Whether you're the victim of a crime involved in an accident or just need to report something suspicious, knowing how to communicate with the authorities is crucial. And trust me, being able to speak to the police confidently in English can really help make things smoother.
Right. And I think we should start with the basics, knowing when and how to contact the police. So, let's say you're traveling and something happens that requires you to get the authorities involved. The first thing you need to do is reach out to them. But how do you do that, especially if you're in a country where you don't speak the local language? Well, these are some of the most important phrases you should be prepared to use when you're in need of police assistance. I need to contact the police. Can you call the police, please? Where is the nearest police station? I need help from the police. There's been an accident. Can you help?
Those are really useful, Adam, especially when you need to make a quick call for help. In some places, you might not know the number to call for emergencies, but one thing that's reassuring is that English is widely understood in many countries, especially in urban areas. Still, knowing how to make that call in English is a good backup. Now, once the police arrive, the next step is to explain the situation as clearly as possible. But the first thing that's likely to happen is that they'll ask for your identification. Here are some phrases that can help you navigate that conversation. I have my passport with me. Here's my ID. Can you speak English? I don't speak language, but I speak English. I'm a tourist. I'm from your country.
Great tips, Sophia. Now, let's get into the scenarios where you might actually need to explain what happened. For example, if you've been a victim of a crime, such as a robbery, theft, or even an assault, you'll need to clearly communicate what's happened. Here are some phrases that can help you explain the situation to the police. I've been robbed. My wallet was stolen. I've been assaulted. Someone took my bag. I've lost my passport.
Exactly. And while it's never fun to think about, these are the phrases that can make a huge difference when you're trying to get help. Whether you've been pickpocketed, lost an important document, or been involved in a more serious crime, you need to be able to explain what happened. One thing that's crucial here is to stay calm and stick to the facts. The clearer and more specific you can be, the more likely it is that the police will take swift action.
Totally agree, Sophia. Another thing we want to mention is that you might need to file a report or provide a statement to the police. This can be especially important for insurance claims or if you're planning to replace a stolen item like your passport. Here are some phrases you'll need if you need to make a report or give a statement. I need to file a report. Can I make a statement? I need a copy of the police report. Where do I sign? How long will the investigation take?
Those are key phrases, Adam. But sometimes, it's not just about making a report. It's about understanding the police's next steps. Depending on the situation, the police may ask you to stay in the area, cooperate with an investigation, or go to the police station. It's important to be clear about your rights and responsibilities. So, you might need to ask about things like, do I need to go to the police station? Can I leave now? Do I need to provide more information? Can I contact my embassy?
That's exactly right, Sophia. And speaking of your embassy, in some situations, especially if you've lost important documents like a passport, or if you've been involved in a serious crime, you might need to contact your embassy or consulate. They can help you with things like replacing lost passports, dealing with legal issues, and sometimes even helping you communicate with local authorities. So it's really helpful to know how to ask for embassy assistance. Here are a few phrases you might use. Can you contact my embassy for me? I need help from my embassy. How do I get in touch with the nearest consulate? Where is the embassy? Can I speak with someone at the embassy?
That's such an important point, Adam. Having the embassy's contact information before you travel is crucial. Keep that number handy, whether it's on your phone or written down somewhere secure. Embassies are there to help you in difficult situations, and having the right phrase to reach out to them quickly can save you a lot of time and stress.
Definitely. Now, we also want to make sure you're aware of your rights when interacting with the police abroad. In some countries, there may be cultural or legal differences in how police handle situations, so it's always good to understand that. For example, you have the right to remain silent in some countries or the right to legal representation. Here are a few phrases that might help if you need to ask about your rights. Do I have the right to remain silent? Can I speak to a lawyer? Am I being detained? What are my rights in this situation?
Right, Adam. Understanding your rights can help you feel more in control of the situation and ensure that you're treated fairly. It's also a good idea to stay calm and be polite. Don't argue with the police, even if you're frustrated or upset. The more respectful you are, the better the chances that the situation will be resolved smoothly.
Exactly. It's all about staying calm and being prepared. And once you've reported the crime, filed a report, or gotten assistance from the police, you'll want to follow up with them if necessary. Here are a couple of helpful phrases for follow-up conversations. Can I get an update on my case? Has there been any progress in the investigation? Where can I pick up the report?
Those phrases will keep you in the loop if you need to follow up on anything after your interaction with the police. And remember, the more clear and concise you are with your communication, the smoother everything will go.
Exactly, Sophia. So, to wrap up this chapter, let's quickly recap what we've covered. First, we talked about how to contact the police and what to say if you're in an emergency. Then, we focused on the phrases you'll need if you're the victim of a crime or if you're filing a report. And finally, we touched on your rights and how to ask for help from your embassy if necessary.
And while we're hoping you never find yourself in a situation where you need to talk to the police abroad, it's always better to be prepared. Knowing the right phrases and staying calm in a stressful situation will definitely help you handle things more effectively.
Absolutely. So, if you're traveling soon, we recommend that you take a few moments to learn and practice these phrases. They'll help you feel more confident if you ever find yourself needing to interact with the police. Stay safe and always be prepared.
And with that, we're going to take a short break. When we return, we'll be diving into what to do if you lose important travel documents like your passport, an issue we all hope doesn't happen, but it's definitely good to be prepared for. Stay tuned.
Now let's talk about one of the biggest travel nightmares that can happen to anyone: losing your passport. We've all heard the horror stories, and trust me, it's a situation no one wants to find themselves in. But the reality is, it can happen. Whether it's from theft, a simple mistake, or just plain bad luck, losing your passport while traveling abroad can turn your dream trip into a stressful mess. But the good news is, it's not the end of the world. If you know what to do and have the right phrases ready, you can handle this much more smoothly.
That's right, Adam. The good news is, losing your passport is not the end of your trip, though it can feel like it when it happens. It's definitely one of the more stressful situations to deal with abroad, but if you know how to react, you can minimize the disruption. In this chapter, we're going to walk you through what to do if you lose your passport, how to handle the authorities, and how to get a replacement quickly so you can get back to enjoying your travels. And as always, we're going to arm you with the English phrases you'll need along the way.
So first things first, let's talk about how to handle that moment when you realize your passport is gone. Whether it's been stolen, misplaced, or just gone missing, the first thing you need to do is stay calm. Panic won't help, and it could make the situation worse. It's important to assess where you last had it, retrace your steps, and...
Exactly, Adam. The first thing I always recommend is to contact local authorities, the police. A police report will be necessary when you're applying for a replacement passport, and it can also help in cases where your passport was stolen. So, you'll need to let them know as soon as possible that your passport is missing. Here are some key phrases to use when speaking to the police about a lost passport. I've lost my passport. My passport has been stolen. Can you help me report the loss? I need to file a report for a lost passport. Can I get a police report for my lost passport?
Those are great phrases, Sophia. Once you've reported the loss to the police, the next step is to contact your embassy or consulate. They are your lifeline in this situation. Most countries have embassies or consulates that can issue you an emergency passport or travel document. Knowing the exact location and contact details of your embassy ahead of time is a huge help. And if you don't know where it is, don't worry. Ask the police. They'll usually point you in the right direction.
That's right. Embassies are really good at handling this kind of issue. And here are some essential phrases to use when speaking to the embassy or consulate about your lost passport. I've lost my passport. How can I get a replacement? Can I get an emergency travel document? What do I need to do to apply for a new passport? How long will it take to get a replacement passport? Can you help me contact the authorities in my home country?
Another thing to keep in mind is that most embassies will require you to provide proof of your identity, especially if you're applying for an emergency passport. This is usually in the form of a photocopy of your lost passport, if you have one, a copy of your flight itinerary, or even a birth certificate if you have it on hand. So, before you travel, always keep a copy of your passport in a safe place or in a digital format, like a scanned copy on your phone.
That's an excellent point, Adam. Having a backup of your passport can save you a lot of trouble in case something happens to the original. And when you're applying for your replacement passport, the embassy may ask for additional documents. Here are some phrases you might need to ask about the process. What documents do I need to provide to get a new passport? Can I get a temporary passport? How much will the passport replacement cost? Do I need to bring any photos for the passport application?
And speaking of costs, let's talk about fees. Passport replacements or emergency travel documents usually come with a fee. While you might have travel insurance that covers the cost of replacement, you'll want to confirm with the embassy the exact amount. Here's how you can ask about the fees. How much is the passport replacement fee? Do you accept credit cards for payment? What is the cost of an emergency travel document?
Exactly. If you have travel insurance, be sure to ask the embassy if the cost is covered under your plan. Insurance can make the process a lot easier, but you still need to pay up front in many cases and then get reimbursed later. Now, once you've submitted your application, the embassy will tell you how long it will take for your new passport or travel document to be issued. You can ask them for an estimated timeline with these phrases. How long will it take to get my new passport? Can I get my passport today? Will I receive my new passport by tomorrow?
That's a great way to stay on top of the process, especially if you have a tight travel schedule. Embassies can sometimes issue emergency passports within a day or two, but it's always good to ask and make sure you have an idea of when you'll have it in your hands. And here's something else to consider. If you're traveling through a different country, you might need to check the visa situation for the new passport, depending on where you're heading next. You can ask the embassy these types of questions. Will I need a visa with my new passport? Do I need to apply for a visa with an emergency passport? Will the new passport work for my upcoming flights?
Exactly, Adam. That's another thing to consider. It's always good to confirm whether your new emergency passport will be accepted by airlines and immigration authorities. Now, let's talk about the aftermath. What do you do once you get your replacement passport? First of all, keep it safe. A lost passport can be a huge inconvenience, but losing it again would be even worse.
That's right, Sophia. Keep it in a secure location, like a money belt or hotel safe. And remember, if you've had your passport stolen, it's a good idea to monitor your accounts, credit cards, bank accounts, and any other personal information. You might also want to contact your home country's immigration services to report the theft and prevent identity theft.
Absolutely, Adam. Keep a close eye on everything and don't hesitate to report any suspicious activity. And once you get your replacement passport, make sure to take a photocopy of it and store it in a separate location. That way, if anything happens again, you'll be one step ahead.
So, to summarize what we've covered in this chapter, losing your passport is stressful, but it's not the end of the world. Stay calm, report the loss to the police, contact your embassy, and follow the process to get a replacement. Having the right documents and knowing the phrases you need in English can make the process smoother and faster.
That's right, Adam. And while it's always better to be cautious and keep your passport safe, being prepared for the worst will ensure you're not caught off guard if you find yourself in a passport nightmare.
All right. This time, we're diving into something that might be hard to think about, but it's an essential part of being a well-prepared traveler: natural disasters and other unexpected emergencies. Earthquakes, hurricanes, floods, wildfires. These are just a few examples of natural disasters that can affect your travels. But even if these events are rare, you can't afford to be unprepared. So, in this chapter, we're going to cover what to do when disaster strikes and how to stay safe while abroad.
Exactly, Adam. Natural disasters can happen at any time, and when they do, it's important to know how to react quickly and effectively. No matter where you're traveling, whether it's a region prone to earthquakes or an area that experiences hurricanes, knowing how to handle these situations can make all the difference. And the first step in handling any emergency is, of course, staying calm. But then, after that, we need to know exactly what to do and, importantly, how to communicate in those moments, especially when we might be in an unfamiliar environment or speaking a foreign language.
That's right. One of the most important things to remember is that, in any disaster situation, safety comes first. Whether it's evacuating a building during an earthquake or seeking shelter from a storm, your first priority is getting to a safe location. But you'll also need to stay in contact with local authorities or emergency services. This is where knowing the right emergency phrases in English is crucial. Let's start by talking about some basic emergency phrases to use during a natural disaster.
Absolutely, Adam. Here are some essential phrases you'll need to know when a disaster hits, and you need to communicate with emergency services or others around you. Is there a safe place to go? Where is the nearest shelter? I need to evacuate. Are there any evacuation instructions? Is it safe to leave this area?
Those are great starting phrases, Sophia. And let's not forget about alerts. Emergency alerts will often come through the radio, your phone, or other media. In some areas, you might get warnings for impending natural disasters, like an earthquake, a tsunami, or even a tornado. Knowing how to interpret and react to those warnings is essential. Here are a few phrases to help you understand if there's an imminent threat. Is there a warning for earthquake, hurricane, etc.? What should I do in case of a type of disaster? Is it safe to stay here or should I leave? What is the emergency plan?
That's a really important point, Adam. Understanding the warnings and instructions you're given can be the difference between staying safe or being caught in a dangerous situation. So, after you've received an alert or you know that a disaster is imminent, you'll need to figure out how to stay in touch with local authorities and other travelers. Here are some more phrases you might need when you're trying to communicate with emergency responders. Can you help me find a safe place? Is there an emergency number to call? What should I do if I can't leave the area? Where is the nearest hospital? How can I stay informed about the disaster?
Great phrases, Sophia. Now, let's talk about some specific types of natural disasters and how to react to each one. One of the most common disasters is an earthquake. If you're in an area that's prone to earthquakes, the first thing you should do is drop to the ground, take cover, and hold on. But when the shaking stops, you'll need to know what to do next. So, here are some essential phrases to keep in mind in the aftermath of an earthquake. Is it safe to leave the building? Is there any damage to the area? Where is the nearest evacuation route? Are there aftershocks? Do I need to stay outside for safety?
Excellent, Adam. Earthquakes can be very disorienting, and it's important to stay away from windows, power lines, and anything that could collapse after the tremors. And after an earthquake, there might be aftershocks, smaller tremors that can happen minutes, hours, or even days after the main quake. It's essential to stay informed and keep asking the right questions about the safety of your environment. Now, let's shift gears and talk about hurricanes.
Hurricanes are another major disaster that can cause widespread damage. If you find yourself in an area where a hurricane is imminent, it's vital to know the evacuation routes, where the shelters are, and when to take cover. Here are some phrases you should use if you're facing a hurricane. Where can I find shelter from the hurricane? Is it safe to stay here, or should I evacuate? When is the hurricane expected to arrive? How can I prepare for the hurricane? What do I do if I get trapped in the storm?
And don't forget, Adam, hurricanes often come with flooding. So if you're in an area that could be flooded, you need to know how to respond. You might have to evacuate quickly or head to higher ground. Here are a few phrases for dealing with flooding. Is the area flooding? Where can I go to avoid the flood? How deep is the water? What's the safest route to higher ground?
Exactly. Flooding can happen fast, and it's crucial to get to higher ground as soon as possible. And when it comes to wildfires, which are more common in dry areas, the same principle applies. Get out quickly and get to safety. If you're in a wildfire zone, make sure you know how to contact emergency services and where the nearest evacuation routes are. Here are some phrases to keep in mind during a wildfire. Is there a wildfire in the area? Where is the nearest safe zone? Are there any evacuation orders? Can I stay in this area safely, or should I leave?
Exactly, Adam. Wildfires can spread quickly, so getting out of the danger zone is essential. And in the case of any disaster, you want to keep in touch with local emergency services and your embassy. Here are some phrases to make sure you're staying connected to the right resources. Can I contact my embassy for help? What should I do if my phone isn't working? Is there a public emergency number I can call? Where can I get more information about the disaster?
And of course, don't forget about your travel insurance. If you have it, you'll want to contact your provider to let them know about the situation. Insurance can help cover any unexpected costs, whether it's for medical assistance, evacuation, or replacing lost belongings. Here's a phrase you might need for that. How do I contact my insurance company in an emergency? Is my travel insurance valid in case of a natural disaster?
All of these are excellent phrases, Adam. And just like we've mentioned throughout this chapter, being prepared and staying calm are the two most important things you can do during a natural disaster. Knowing the right questions to ask, having the right phrases at hand, and knowing where to go for help will make all the difference.
Exactly, Sophia. It's always better to be over-prepared than under-prepared. And whether it's an earthquake, a hurricane, or any other type of disaster, if you know what to do and how to communicate, you'll be much safer. So, let's quickly recap the key phrases we've covered in this chapter. Where is the nearest shelter? How can I stay informed about the disaster? What should I do in case of earthquake, hurricane, etc.? Is it safe to stay here or should I evacuate? Can I contact my embassy for help?
And don't forget to stay calm, stick to safety protocols, and listen to local authorities. As travelers, we might not be used to these types of situations, but with the right knowledge, you'll be able to handle them with confidence.
Exactly, Sophia. We hope you never have to use any of these phrases. But if you find yourself in a natural disaster or emergency abroad, having the right language tools will make all the difference. All right. Now we're going to dive into a challenge that all travelers face, but especially in emergencies: language barriers. If you've ever traveled to a place where you didn't speak the language, you know how tough it can be to communicate. Now, imagine being in an emergency situation where every second counts. It can feel like you're lost in translation. But don't worry, we've got your back. In this chapter, we're going to share tips on how to handle language barriers, particularly in those high-pressure moments, and equip you with phrases that'll help you stay safe when you need it most.
Exactly, Adam. Language barriers can make everything harder, whether you're dealing with a medical emergency, interacting with authorities, or just trying to find help. But if you're prepared, and you have a few key phrases under your belt, you'll be able to navigate even the most stressful situations. The best thing you can do is stay calm, slow down, and communicate clearly. And remember, most people are willing to help, even if you don't speak the same language.
Absolutely. The key is patience. Take a deep breath and try to make yourself understood by using simple, clear words and gestures. And sometimes, when words fail, gestures can be a lifesaver. Pointing, miming, or even drawing something can often get your point across when words won't. But today, we're going to focus on the verbal tools, the phrases and strategies that'll help you handle things when you're in a jam and need help urgently.
So, let's start with one of the most crucial steps in any emergency: getting someone's attention. Whether you're in a crowded market or a quiet rural area, the first thing you need is to make sure someone knows you need help. Here are some basic phrases you can use to get attention in an emergency situation. Excuse me, can you help me? I need help. Please, it's urgent. Can you understand me? Do you speak English? So, let's start with one of the most crucial steps in any emergency: getting someone's attention. Whether you're in a crowded market or a quiet rural area, the first thing you need is to make sure someone knows you need help. Here are some basic phrases you can use to get attention in an emergency situation. Excuse me, can you help me? I need help. Please, it's urgent. Can you understand me? Do you speak English? That's a great tip, Adam. And if you do find someone who speaks a little bit of English, you'll need to communicate the issue as simply as possible. In emergencies, less is more. Keep your sentences short and clear. For example, if you're lost or in danger, you can say, I am lost. Can you help me find name of location? I need medical help right away. I am in danger. Please help me. My item was stolen. I don't feel well. I need a doctor.
Good points, Sophia. But what if you're dealing with someone who doesn't speak much English, and you're in a medical emergency or need police assistance? That's when universal phrases become invaluable. Here are some phrases you might need when you're in a serious situation where time is of the essence. I need a doctor. Call an ambulance. I am injured. I need help with my health issue, injury. I need the police. My passport was stolen.
Those are definitely essential phrases, but sometimes the situation can escalate, and you might need to explain exactly what happened. It's always useful to have a few phrases that help explain what the emergency is. For example, if you're sick or injured, try these. I have pain in my location of pain. I have a headache and fever. I was in an accident. I can't breathe. I'm bleeding. I need help.
Those are lifesavers in any medical emergency. And while we're talking about injuries, don't forget about first aid phrases. If you're injured or someone else is, you'll need to get help as quickly as possible. Some other helpful phrases for that might include, can you help me stop the bleeding? I need a bandage. I need ice. Please get a first aid kit. Can you call an ambulance?
Good advice, Adam. And speaking of calling for help, you might also want to know how to ask for directions or find your way to safety if you're lost or in an unfamiliar place. You might need to ask about the nearest hospital, police station, or even safe zones during an emergency. Here are some useful phrases for that. Where is the nearest hospital? Can you show me the way to the police station? Where is the nearest safe place? Is it safe to walk to location? Where can I get a taxi or ride to safety?
Those are incredibly helpful, especially if you need immediate help getting to a safe place. And sometimes, when you're in a foreign country, it's not just about getting help from locals. You might need to communicate with other tourists or travelers who can assist you or point you in the right direction. Here are some helpful phrases for reaching out to other travelers who might speak English. Are you okay? Do you need help? Do you know where the nearest embassy is? Can you help me find location or service? Can you give me your contact info?
Exactly, Adam. Fellow travelers can be incredibly helpful in emergencies, and often they're just as eager to help you out as you are to assist them. So don't be afraid to ask for help if you're unsure of what to do next. Another thing to keep in mind is that technology can be your best friend when you're dealing with language barriers. If you have a translation app or online dictionary, use it to help break down the communication gap. It can be really helpful in emergency situations.
Great point, Sophia. With smartphones and translation apps, you're not completely dependent on your ability to speak the language, and if you're in a situation where you can't access technology or it's unreliable, don't hesitate to use your gestures or write down what you need. In some cases, writing down a word or phrase can be much clearer than trying to say it aloud.
Exactly. The most important thing is to stay calm, be persistent, and not to give up, even if there's a communication barrier. Most people, when they see you're in trouble, will try their best to help, especially if you're able to show them you're serious about needing assistance. Keep these phrases in mind, and you'll find it much easier to handle any emergency situation, no matter the language. Exactly. The most important thing is to stay calm, be persistent, and not to give up, even if there's a communication barrier. Most people, when they see you're in trouble, will try their best to help, especially if you're able to show them you're serious about needing assistance. Keep these phrases in mind, and you'll find it much easier to handle any emergency situation, no matter the language.
So, let's quickly recap the key phrases we've covered in this chapter for communicating under pressure. Can you help me? I need a doctor. Where is the nearest hospital? Please, call an ambulance. I don't feel well. My passport was stolen. Can you understand me?
Those are essential phrases to know when you're abroad, and they can make a world of difference in an emergency situation. Language barriers are tough, but with the right tools and mindset, you can break through them. The key is staying calm, knowing what you need, and using the resources around you, including other people, technology, and your own creativity.
Exactly. And the more you prepare ahead of time by learning some key phrases and downloading helpful apps, the better equipped you'll be to handle any situation that comes your way. We hope this chapter gave you some peace of mind when it comes to language barriers. All right. We hope these tips help you feel more prepared when words fail, but kindness and creativity take over.
Remember, even a few key phrases or the right app can make all the difference in an emergency. And don't forget, people are often more willing to help than you might think.
Thanks for tuning in. Don't miss our next chapter where we'll talk about using technology to handle emergencies like a pro. Until then, stay safe and happy travels.
See you next time. Thank you.